Parashat Vaera, 16th of January 2026. Theme: God's plan of love, healing, and presence. In this parashah, we have quite the scene. The Israelites have been slaves in Egypt for 400 years, and God, hearing their cry, has intervened. Moses, the man chosen by God to lead the people out of Egypt, firstly receives the score in Pharaoh. The proud and defiant ruler of Egypt stubbornly refuses to grant the Israelites their freedom. How will this be resolved? Moses found many excuses not to enter into this project, but the convincing reassurance, in fact, the only thing he could absolutely rely on, was the God who would be with him. I will be with you. Still, preoccupied, Moses asked, "What should I say about the God of my ancestors?" Moses found many excuses not to enter into this project, but the convincing reassurance, in fact, the only thing he could absolutely rely on, was that God would be with him. I will be with you. Still preoccupied, Moses asked, "What should I say about the God of my ancestor?" God then disclosed to Moses his name, "I am who I am." From now on, it was not Moses' capabilities or luck, therefore, but it was all divine affirmation. When God revealed Godself to the Patriarchs, it was with the name El Shaddai, a nurturing mother. It was more of a relationship between a parent and a child. Now with Moses, God speaks face to face as one adult to another in a very personal and intimate way. In the book of Exodus, we see that God invites human presence to help bring about the accomplishment of divine aims. God chooses to need people. According to Rabbi Abraham Joshua Ezekiel, God's dream is not to be alone, to have mankind as a partner in the drama of continuous creation. A question that the sage have is, why did God speak to Moses in the name of the attribute of mercy? One interpretation is, I will speak to him only with the voice of mercy. For the burden of caring for the Israelites is so great, and only Moses is merciful enough to do it. The ancient Egypt rulers were both head of the state and religious leader of the people. The word Pharaoh means great house, a reference to the palace where he resided. Pharaoh, as a religious leader, was considered to be a divine intermediary between the gods and the people. He had absolute authority, his word was law. He commissioned monumental structures that served religious, political, and funerary purposes. We do not know the name of the pharaoh Moses dealt with. Scholars disagree as to the exact dates of the pharaohs and the length of their reigns, so they difficult to pinpoint the exact one. Instead, the focus was only his rule, not his name. Pharaoh's ultimate challenge was when Moses, claiming to speak for God, demanded of him to release the Israelites. This confronted both his divinity and authority, with which the Pharaoh's heart was hardened. It has been hard to understand. Was it just a stubborn resistance, or what is a deliberate part of God's plan in order to demonstrate God's power over Egypt? Indeed, Pharaoh was actually a catalyst for God's sovereignty. It was Pharaoh's cruelty that set in motion this event that would both bring about his own downfall and the Israelite release. Maimonides wrote of Pharaoh, sometimes a man's offense is so great that he forecloses the possibility of repentance. At first he sinned repeatedly, of his own free will, until he fortified the capacity to repent. The worst part of slavery for the Israelites was that they had grown accustomed to the dustless side of the fact that they did not have to live under such conditions. To free themselves from this passive state was the only way to ever invention The possibility of change. Throughout the story of being freed from bondage from the Israelites and Moses had suffered loss, Moses in a desperate plea cried out, "If the Israelites will not listen to me, why would Pharaoh listen to me?" God replied, "Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh." Difficulties and loss can deplete us, and as parashah, there is an expression that describes well how demoralizing this can be. It is referred to as Godself. It literally means a shortening of the soul. This is what happened to the Israelites there experienced as slaves in Egypt, completely diminished them spiritually. This is the same term used in Job 21 verse 4, speaking of this out of pain and anguish and dealing with loss, and one begins to question the very will to live in even the question of God. Moses did too. God was not surprised at the whole array of emotions that Moses exhibited, for it illustrated a more honest and genuine relationship. It's true that God can handle our anger, our honesty, and our questioning because God understands us. Strengthening and enabling us, God replenish also, and we are able to walk onward with our grief. Rumi, a Sufi mystic and poet of the 13th century, cautions us, "Don't run away from grief, O soul. Look for the remedy inside of pain, because the rose came from the thorn, and the ruby from the stone." For reflection and discussion, with whom do you identify in this story with Exodus, a slave Moses of Pharaoh? Does the term shortening of the soul express a time in your life when you experience difficulty of loss,